Hello and welcome back to another episode of That Pop Culture Pod. I am one of your co-hosts, Juan Perez, and joining me today is another one of my co-hosts, the man who was supposed to be the new Captain America, but that rat Anthony Mackie stole his job, Hunter Crate. How are you doing today, brother?
I got robbed. I think I would have looked very handsome holding up that shield, but you know, sometimes you lose out on these roles. The audition did not go well. I cried maybe slightly too much.
Too much. And also joining us today is our dear friend and soon-to-be birthday boy, Ryan Ader. How are you doing today, brother?
I'm doing pretty good. Listen, you talking about the Captain America thing, I really want us to talk about that movie. I don't know if you guys have seen it yet, but I really want to talk.
I've seen it and I have it on my list.
Cool. I want to talk about how much of a trash can that was.
You're absolutely insane.
No.
I have not seen it yet, but I'm fine with spoilers for it because I don't know when I'll even see it. And I have already gotten a lot of it spoiled from TikTok.
You know what? Since he's already starting his shiitake fucking mushroom.
What are you talking? Oh my!
Let's talk about that first because that is on my list as something that Hunter was supposed to see, but he hates me and he wants me to die. So let's start with that. All right, what do you think about the new Captain America movie? Because me and Jess seen it last.
So I do not think that it is the worst. I do not think that it is like the worst Marvel movie. I think I'm talking in terms of like the last 2 years, right? Because I think that Marvel has been on such a downturn. They have sucked in most of like the movies that have come out, other than like Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which is like a masterpiece.
Very good movie.
But like Ant-Man, I don't know if you saw that. That one I thought
it was okay.
Yeah, it was pretty dull. You know what I mean? Like they kind of went and ruined what's the dude with the big face? Mm-hmm. He's
MODOK.
Johnny Big Dome.
MODOK?
Big Dome.
MODOK.
Yes. MODOK in the comics is really cool. And this is kind of just a punchline the whole time that you know is strong, but then he doesn't really do anything except for blow up at the end. Sorry, spoilers. But, so, Hunter doesn't care about spoilers. Can I just say, like, my main complaint with it?
What's that?
With the Captain America movie?
It feels fun. It feels like they have cool set pieces, but, like, every single trailer was just about Red Hulk, but then you only see Red Hulk for like 5-10 minutes at the end of the movie. I also thought
okay, I can buy that.
I also thought that the villain was one of the weakest. It feels exactly like someone just watched the new Batman movie and was like, write that down right now. I thought that it was very Riddler-esque. I just didn't. I don't know. I really was not into the villain the whole time. Like I'm talking about like the James Patterson one. You know what I'm talking about? Did you see that new Batman?
I don't know who James Patterson is, but the bad guy in Captain America was very boring.
Yeah.
I don't even know if he's the bad guy. He just the guy that the government screwed over.
Yes.
He was kind of boring. I'd never heard of him, so I had absolutely no stakes in it. Okay, so let's talk about the movie without giving away too many spoilers, because Hunter hasn't seen it. So, the movie was not long at all. It was an hour and like 45 minutes. But it had like 4 arcs, so it was like a 4-part movie. So they fit all that in. So that was... Everything felt kind of rushed because, like he was talking about, the Red Hulk was at the end of the movie. They made it seem like that was going to be the whole movie. And that was like the 4th arc of the entire time. So it was, I think... So, all right, so you have your first part where it's kind of like Captain America is doing his stuff with the new Falcon. The only character I didn't like in the movie was that new Falcon. He was super annoying. TikTok
Agreed.
boy. I wasn't a big fan of it. So they were doing stuff, and then Harrison Ford, which took over. Let me preface this because you don't even know who the hell Harrison Ford is because they're talking about him like he's been around. The original general from Ultron, he passed away 2 years ago.
Yes.
So they recast him as Harrison Ford. So Hunter, when you watch it, and you're like, who the hell is this person? It's the white general with the mustache from the old movies. It's just that he passed away, sadly. Rest in peace. So you have this whole first arc where Captain America's doing this thing, and then Gustavo from Breaking Bad seems like he's the bad guy. And then you have a second arc where the actual bad guy is announced. And then you have this third arc where Captain America's kind of like not Captain America. It's really dumb. Well, it actually wasn't really dumb. It was just like it seemed like they crammed that in when it didn't need to be crammed in. And then you have the fourth arc where Red Hulk appears. I don't think it was a bad movie at all. I feel like they're finally starting to take the writing back into a good direction. I liked who they introduced in this movie. I liked who they brought back, especially once I knew who it was. I like where... One, I think I was telling Hunter this last time we talked about this. Anthony Mackie is like one of my favorite characters from the Marvel Universe. So like the Falcon and who he plays, I just really, really like him. I think he was like great with Captain America, and then kind of like during his show with Bucky, he was great. So I already kind of have a little bit of an affinity for the movie. I'm willing to give it a little bit more leeway because I just really like him in the character role. I think he's amazing. Harrison Ford, amazing. Like the little tiny agent woman that was in it, I really ended up liking her. And obviously, who doesn't love that Gustavo character from the Breaking Bad, whatever his name is. I loved him too. He is awesome. So I think the story was written in a way where they could have cut out one arc and the movie would have been significantly better. I think the writing's getting better. I think the dialogue's getting better.
Yes.
But they're deep diving into obscure bad guys, and that's going to make people not care. So hopefully this is kind of like going to move away from that as well, since they are starting to go into a good direction again. But my biggest thing I'll say about it is I liked it. I thought it was a solid 68 to 72 movie. I mean,
Yes.
It's better than the other one, so I think it was,
So-
really, it definitely wasn't mid. I thought it was above mid. So, like...
When
a
I
mid
say
is a movie
bad,
you'll watch, but
I
you won't watch
guess
again.
I mean in term. Let me re-say it as Marvel bad. Does that make more sense? It's a bad Marvel movie. Not bad.
Better than every year since COVID, I'd say Captain America. I mean, not Captain America. I'm so sorry. Guardians of the Galaxy, Doctor Strange,
I liked Doctor Strange.
and I also didn't particularly mind the Eternals. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I didn't mind it. It was fine. It was like a mid movie. It was perfectly fine to watch. Cool. I didn't mind it. It was better than everything else that they put out other than those movies.
Yeah.
the one thing I did want to say, my biggest problem with the guys. The CGI was so god-awful.
Yes, agreed.
Like, god-awful. Like, the worst I've seen since, like, early to mid-2000s. Like, we are going in such a bad direction backwards with CGI. It looks so bad.
Yeah, it feels
All
weird.
of the practical effects looked amazing. All the CGI looked awful. And that was my biggest gripe. It really takes you out of the movie. Oh, the next thing that I had the biggest problem with, guys, and I think everybody can agree with this, and Hunter, since you haven't seen it, I think you can agree what I hate about this. GM paid a lot of money to be the car sponsor in this movie. And in every scene where you could tell GM paid for, like, spotlight in that scene, it's so insanely, blatantly a GM ad during those scenes that it completely ruins it for me.
That's
like,
kind of funny.
There was the truck. There was a scene with Gustavo, Captain America, and a truck. And the whole scene, which is arguably probably my favorite part of the whole movie, it was just a giant GM logo with superheroes fighting in front of it. It sucked, and it completely took me out of the best parts of the movie, and I was not a big fan.
I think it is pretty insane that you spend Usually a pretty high amount of money these days to go see a movie, and you go and you have to sit through the ads at the start of it, and then now also they're inserting ads into the actual context of the movie. Like there's no way to remove it. So just like forever, this piece of media is stuck having advertisements that will no longer be relevant in it. It's just like crazy.
There was a new Hummer, the battery Hummer in it, which I really like the battery Hummer. I think it looks really nice. I think it looks really cool. The only thing I don't like is the price tag. But like, this is a truck that's not going to exist for probably the next few years. It's $100,000 truck. It's not going to last. So going back and watching this movie, you're going to be like, oh, I remember when they made that idiotic truck. A lot of people probably feel that way about it. So it's like, it's so blatantly weird, dude. Let me pull up a picture for you while you continue like focusing in on that. But it is so obnoxious.
I mean, I'm trying like to think back, and I feel like you look back at like Coca-Cola and stuff like that. I feel like ad insertion has been almost always been in history. I don't know.
Oh my god, this is perfect.
It sucked the whole time. You're right that they've done like people drinking Coke and the car thing, but it sucked the whole time.
Yes.
In my opinion. I just think it's ridiculous to have your piece of.
I'm not calling it good. I'm just saying like
with that type of advertising internally.
I'm not saying it's good. No
the
justification. It's annoying, but
that's what was in the whole scene the whole time, Hunter. For when you look at the picture, it was on your phone. The whole scene was spaced in front of that big ass front end. Listen, all right. So going back to what Ryan was saying, like, yeah, they've done it before. And when I watch TV shows and I watch movies, and you can tell who paid for the cars to be in it, it's usually just they're the only cars with badges, or that's the car that they drive in the whole movie. That's fine. This was like zoom ins on the GMC logo
in the
middle of like the best fight scene. It was so obnoxious and annoying that it completely ruined it for me. And it was, I don't know. It's like there's a difference between just having a badge on a car and it being like the centerpiece of the scene. That was so crazy.
Yeah, very much so. I can agree with that.
So anyways, overall, Ryan, what would you give it rating wise? And you don't have to like give it a better rating because I like it or anything like that.
I was going to give it a 6.
What do you say? 6 out of 10? That's not bad.
Yeah, no, like, again, it's a Marvel movie. You know what I mean? Is that, like, I only said that I just was not involved with, I don't know. I just really did not feel that involved with the storyline, and it just did not really help that well. I really liked, said his name is Anthony Mackie. I always forget his name. Yes. The new Captain America is fantastic. I think he's a great actor. I'm glad that he's there.
So talented.
Yeah, absolutely. Same thing. It's same thing that you had said, which is that I don't like the new guy. But you know what I mean? Like, I think like the last two memorable Marvel movies that I saw was Shang-Chi, and Shang-Chi wasn't even
so
like.
So good.
It wasn't even like revolutionary in terms of like storytelling. Like I feel like it's just fun. I feel like
it was fun with great characters and also the bad guy.
It was fun and it was quick.
Awesome.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I feel like part of the reason I like that one a lot is because it wasn't the exact origin story formula that Marvel movies keep doing over and over again.
How do you mean?
I mean, I felt like in a lot of ways that movie was like, it was kind of introducing a new character, or new characters and everything, but they kind of approached it in a different way than they traditionally do in these Marvel movies.
Okay.
Like, I feel like a lot of the stories that are introducing characters are just like the exact same formula the whole time.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of what they did with the bad guy in this one. It was like, oh, the Sabi backstory about how the government did him wrong, and it's like, well, surprise, surprise, the government did somebody wrong. Like, come on. But I get exactly what you mean, and I need to definitely watch it again because it's definitely one of my more favorite post-Endgame movies. I hope that those characters come back. They haven't really talked too much about them, but yeah, I mean, he was definitely, I can't believe I forgot about that one. That's definitely one of my more favorite ones as well. All right, so Hunter, let's do some cleanup from our last podcast. Did you watch the Saturday Night Live movie that we were talking about?
No, I did not.
Oh my god, I'm gonna fight you. Very good. I would give it like a 90. Some of the characters that they cast as the real comedians from the original Saturday Night Live season, they look so identical. It's not even funny. It was actually kind of eerie how great some of these the casting was. I want you to try to watch it, and then we could talk more about that. So I'll pass on that one. But I'd say my rating for the Saturday Night movie was 90. Really, really big fan of that. But I want to talk about this hogwash you had me watch. Parasite.
What?
That movie
You're
was crazy.
In what way? You got to elaborate. Are you saying you didn't like it or it was bad?
No, it was good. It was good. I did like it. I don't think it's something that I would watch more than maybe another, as you get older, sometimes you just revisit movies. I think it was a good movie, but it was like so left field from what it was. I always thought it was a horror movie, and it was completely not. It was crazy. You were going to say something, Ron?
I would recommend watching it a second time. I think that you get more out of it the second time watching it, and you catch some things that weren't really as clear on the first watch.
Like what? Pretty, straightforward. I knew I didn't know what the hell to expect.
Yeah.
And then once he got the job and he got his sister in, I knew exactly where the rest of the movie was going to go. The one thing I will say is the M. Night Shyamalan ass ending. That was crazy how the guy comes back out after, his wife basically passes away and then he murders everybody. That was crazy. The dad hiding in the basement, which, I knew he was going to go to the basement, but that was crazy. I don't know. I guess it's unlike anything I've ever seen. So it was so insane to watch it. I was texting Hunter while I was watching it, and I was like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. It was just it was crazy that it was going to be a twist towards the middle, when he gets a job, and then they start firing everybody to get their family in, and then it was a twist about the guy living in the basement, and then the twist. Oh my God, dude. Crazy. I would say, though, from a movie standpoint, dialogue, everything, I would say it's probably an 80. I just don't think it was anything that I was super, super into personally. But I thought it was an overall good movie.
I felt like it was a movie that kind of had a lot to say.
Definitely.
I feel like there's a lot of ways to kind of... there's a pretty baseline interpretation, but there's a lot of ways to kind of interpret some of the elements of it as to, how literal you want to take it. But the movie is actually supposed to be a comedy, like a dark comedy movie, which is a very different way to watch it.
I think
as well,
it's more of a comedy in the traditional sense of what a comedy was, Shakespearean comedy, a tragedy, really, with different acts. But I didn't laugh one time. The movie was fucking tragic.
Yeah,
just every aspect, the family's house getting flooded, losing the sister, all that stuff, the brain damage in the guy that took him months to recover from, his dad going missing. It was just so sad. And then, like you said, it really highlights how capitalism is killing South Korea right now. So the point is clear and the point is beautiful, and I really liked the way that it was articulated. But it was just man, dude, I don't even know. I was trying to talk some of my coworkers into watching it to get their viewpoints of it. But none of them will watch it because it's in South Korean. And I'm it's really not that hard. It's an hour and 40 minutes. You're telling me you can't read for an hour and 40 minutes?
We could have a whole podcast about that.
Dude.
About how many people refuse to watch any foreign language film.
My parents are one of those.
Yeah, I just if it's a 3.5 hour movie or 3 hour movie, and I understand maybe, but it's
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's not a big barrier.
No.
You
It's
can
not the
kind
end of
of
the world.
interpret emotions and feelings as you're reading it or whatever, as though it was in whatever language, you don't. I feel like you don't miss the points of the movie when it's just because it's in a different language.
No, especially when South Korea is literally just America over there. There's so many similarities because their whole new governmental structure is based around the U.S. So it's it's really not too different from us. And a lot of these foreign films, there are a lot of good French films. There's a lot of good Hispanic films, Mexican specifically, and a lot of good Japanese films. decent amount of those countries have loan words from English. So there are certain times where they're like using English words in their sentences. So it's like I don't understand why people just refuse to. And if it's like an hour and 30 minutes to 2 hours, it's like watching 2 episodes of something on Netflix. You're telling me you can't read for 2 hours?
It can't be done.
It's insane.
You know how that's 200 TikTok videos they could watch.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, but except they're gonna hate everything they see on TikTok instead of watching like a good movie. Especially when Parasite won all of those awards, which I do understand why. I can't explain to you why it's not particularly my favorite. It's just I recognize it's a good movie. It's just not really a movie that I was particularly interested in. Maybe because it hits too close to home.
Yeah, it is pretty real.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, a lot of the problems we have in America, they are dealing with now. So it's just like, I don't know. Maybe that's what it was. I also think watching good people do bad stuff because they have no other choice is always like a big bummer to me. I don't know. But all right, so
I think
the next thing I wanted to cover for you is, did you end up watching Rebel Moon, any of it at all?
I tried to, and I could not get to the first movie again. I'm going to be 100% honest with you.
Okay, that's fair. I can rock and roll with that. So I'm an hour and some change into the second movie. So altogether, I'm about 4.5 hours into the whole film series. I just gave up. Like, I thought every single character was so hollow. And then they finally started doing the backstories, and by that point, I was so disconnected from all the characters, I didn't care anymore, so I turned it off, and I watched Parasite. Like, literally that night when I texted you about Parasite, I turned off Rebel Moon and put it on. So, okay.
Which, comparatively, is a movie that builds up the characters so much, you almost feel like, in certain scenes, you feel, like, remorseful or almost sick to your stomach when you're experiencing what they're going through. Even though the movie has a language barrier for us, it built the characters. I think Parasite built the characters so well compared to something like Rebel Moon, where it's in English and I don't feel any relation to any of the characters.
Yep, I absolutely, especially because I think 3 of the characters are like royalty. But when you're watching Parasite, it's like 4 working class people in a family. It's like, oh, which one do I care more about?
Well, you should be able to relate to royalty because you're a king, my boy.
No, you're a king.
He's got you there.
God.
Yeah, I know. He really backed me into a corner.
I fucking cooked him.
All right, guys. Well, what do you have on the docket?
I wanted to actually branch into something. This is just what Hunter had just brought up, which is just kind of like struck like a nerve, which is just that, like, I feel like there's a lot of times that, like, I feel like a lot of times I have not been caring about a TV show. Especially, like, characters in it. Sometimes it just feels like I'm there for, like, the ride. And I feel like the last show where, like, I felt, like, actually, like, invested was Sopranos. But Sopranos was, like, a year-long affair for me. Like...
It's a long show. It's a long-ass show.
I feel like shows today are afraid to do the long haul. You know what I mean? Like, Sopranos was long and dry, but it needed to be because you built up these heavy relationships with so many different characters throughout the mob. Like, I don't know. What do you guys feel about long haul shows? Like, Game of Thrones is up there, I feel.
I feel like a lot of the time, creators of shows now, kind of what I was joking about earlier, feel like they're competing for people's attention spans more than ever because so many people are on their phone at the same time that they're watching shows. And I think can't think of what the exact word I'm looking for is, but one of the internal groups within Netflix literally told their show creators that they wanted them to be simpler and easy to follow because they believe most people are consuming other content when they're watching it. So they don't want it to be so in-depth that they have to be really paying attention. Whereas I feel like pretty much everything like that starts to feel the same. You know, like you have so many tools now to tell such an amazing story, both visually and through so many amazing actors. And leaving it on the table for people to really, like, have a big buy-in and get attached to these characters when almost every like huge piece of media history that's either like a movie or a show or whatever is because it has such a good build up. Like look at Breaking Bad is kind of also in the same I'd say in the same kind of thing as The Sopranos or Game of Thrones or whatever, where there's a lot of build up, but it really makes you buy into the characters and the environment and the situation and kind of understand the motivations of the characters. I personally don't really like the super shallow media. There's some exceptions where sometimes it's nice to just have something to turn your brain off and watch, kind of. But I feel like it's hollowing out this media is very kind of a scary thing, you know. I feel like it's makes the art lose its uniqueness.
Well, let's talk about the actual environment, because I feel like the major thing. Well, I guess you touched on it a little bit, Hunter, but I feel like the thing that you guys are both missing. They don't allow most TV shows to be long term anymore. A lot of, especially Netflix, it's like it's a 3 season and that's it. You know, Hulu might be a 2 season and that's it. So they're not allowed to do these long drawn out things anymore. And like you said, I mean, them competing with people on their phones. I think intelligence as a whole is kind of going down as well. So people just don't even, like, a lot of people don't even get the irony of shows, like in the comparisons that they make. Hunter, we've talked about this before, how a lot of people don't know that the Empire is based on the U.S. and they die on the hill that it's not. Like, a lot of people just don't understand what artists try to portray. I love a slow burn as long as I'm getting a lot of lore out of it. So I don't care how long the TV show is, as long as I'm getting something out of it. Because like when I was like watching Lost, the reason I kept losing interest is because I just felt like a lot of that stuff was just for no reason at all. Wasn't interesting me. I didn't care about the characters. I'm also perfectly fine with just a short TV series. You know, if it's 1 season and it's everything that they want, I just want a complete story. If it has to be 7 seasons, it has to be 7 seasons. If it has to be 1, it has to be 1. That's fine. But like when you said that Netflix was saying that they have to like dumb it down for people because they're so dumb, I think that's why Netflix does have this name, though, of it literally does have the most hollow shows. A lot of people don't get Netflix or pay for Netflix because they have the best media. It's just because they have stuff like that they can just put on and scroll on their phone when they go home. But then you have places like Apple TV and HBO where it's like, you know, like Severance right now, season 2 is like is the most successful show on Apple ever. It is the most complicated show I've seen in a very long time.
It's so good.
Quality is rewarded, but you have to put your show on the channel that'll allow you that creative freedom. Look at what happened to The Witcher and Netflix. All of those clowns literally drove away one of the most talented actors in the world that knew every piece of source material, and they completely ignored him and he left. Like, you need to go, like how Apple let Ben Stiller have almost 3 years between season 1 and season 2 of Severance. He says he waited because he wanted to make sure the second season was done properly. It is now the most successful show on Apple TV. You have to go where you're going to be appreciated. And I know a lot of people, especially as they're breaking into the scene, they just go wherever the hell they can. They just want to get paid to create something. But I think that it is always going to be rewarded when you actually take the time to tell the story you want to tell.
So one of the specific notes that I had to look it up because I wanted to have like the specific or whatnot is that the Netflix executives also have been telling screenwriters to have their characters announce what they're doing so that viewers who have the program on in the background can follow along without having to miss plot strands.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life.
So that is part of the reason why a lot of the Netflix originals have a lot of like repeating exposition over and over and over again, which could be very grating.
I think the last Netflix original that I was really into, well, you know, like other than like I watch Stranger Things when it comes out, like every like 3 or 4 years. Yeah, you know, like it's good. It was what was the animated Bill Burr one? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, F is for Family.
F is for Family is one of my favorite Netflix original. Yeah, it's so good. It's funny. I feel like they hit on some pretty good like emotional arcs throughout the show. I never watched the last one, the last season, which goes into when his dad comes. I was just like, I'm done.
Yeah, I think F is for family, and which one's the one about the hormone monsters with the kids?
Big Mouth.
Big Mouth. That's
Yes.
another one that I feel like the comedians behind the show, they have a very long history of making good quality content, so they have a little bit more creative freedom.
Well, the guy from Big Mouth, did you ever watch The
Nick
League?
Kroll. No.
You should, both of you, at some point, watch it. It's
What
called
is it?
The League. It is literally just a comedy show about guys who play fantasy football, but it is some of the most crude humor I have seen. It is
I know
beautiful.
what you're talking
Yes, it is a beautiful show.
Yeah, Nick Kroll is very talented.
Yes.
I'm a very big fan of a lot of the stuff he makes.
I'm
Same
talking.
with Maya
Yeah,
Rudolph.
Very
Mhm.
funny.
I was talking about The League specifically because Nick Kroll is one of the main writers for it, and I think that The
Mhm.
League goes on for like 5 or 6 seasons, and it's probably one of like the best comedy shows I've watched. That and
Yeah, comedy is like one of my main things that I watch.
have you
Anime and comedy
I-
are my two.
have you seen Detroiters then? This is to you too, Hunter.
I have not yet. It's on my
I've
list. It's
seen
up one of the next
Detroiters.
ones I plan on watching.
That's one of my favorite. I watched
That guy is
That-
really funny.
Tim
the white one.
Robinson. Mm-hmm.
Tim
Yeah,
Robinson.
dude, he is hilarious. Well, his
It's-
like co-guy that he has on there too. I've seen him in some stuff. He's pretty funny too.
Yes.
But yeah, a lot of like the clickbait that guy makes, he is just hilarious. And I think he's actually from Michigan, if I remember
Yes.
correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need
Yeah,
to
that
watch
show. That show is super good. It's funny that you bring that up, Ryan, because I literally was gonna say I would love to see a show made by Nick Kroll and Tim Robinson together. I feel like would be just like
Unhinged.
because they're both really unhinged, kind of like off the beaten path with their
Mhm.
comedy, willing to do like kind of crazy stuff or whatever. And I feel like they could make some insanely funny.
I just think that like they're definitely just like on like the opposite ends of. I feel like Nick Kroll definitely is more in. I don't know how to explain it. You know what I mean? Like it kind of feels like they have their own groups right now. If that makes any sense.
Yeah,
I
but
think
being
with
on
the
the
people they
opposite ends
surround-
doesn't mean that they can't make something work great together.
Oh
Sometimes
no,
when-
they definitely
what is
will.
it
I just think I just think that Tim Robinson is still on the up and up. Cause like
I would agree with that.
Because, like, some of his stuff is super popular, but, like, Detroiters is still pretty unknown. You know, I think You Should Leave is popular to, you know, a decent amount of people now. So, which is pretty
I would
cool.
say both of those are pretty big hits on Netflix.
Yeah. Detroiters was not a big hit. It got canceled after 2 seasons, sadly. You know, it's one of those things where it got popular because Tim Robinson got, you know, popular after the fact. Because of I Think You Should
okay.
Leave. Because he was on SNL for a little bit and then he ended up getting kicked off.
Yeah, SNL is pretty good at kicking off people that end up to go on to have pretty decent careers.
Mhm.
I feel like Tim Robinson is the kind of person that would definitely rub against the grain for what they typically try to do for a lot of skits at SNL as well. At least in like the new age of SNL.
How do you
that-
mean?
I feel like a lot of his comedy is I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it, but it's a very specific kind of like niche of almost like a combination of like the silly voices and the body comedy, like the slap. It's almost kind of slapstick a lot of the
Yes.
time
Oh,
in a
okay.
way,
Slapstick.
and as well as like there's a lot of like the stupid voices and like the bad impressions kind of comedy and stuff like that, which is actually kind of I feel like Nick Kroll and him actually do have a lot in common, and that like some of their if you've seen any skits by Nick
Mhm.
Kroll, they're pretty similar. Like there's a lot of him doing stupid voices and pretending to either be dumb or pretending to be some insane character that's like out of place in the setting is kind of like what they both do a lot with their
So
comedy
funny.
skits.
Yeah, I agree with that. It reminds me a lot of I gotta look up his name before I say it. It's from Ever seen like Wet Hot American Summer?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've said that question so many times this podcast, holy shit. But Wet Hot American Summer is just one of my favorite
Probably some of my favorite comedians ever came. from
yes, some of my favorite comedians, but I feel like watching that movie is kind of like a pure definition of like what my comedy is. It's very dry, It's very slapstick. It's just very abrupt. I don't know. I love that movie so much. And then they did 2 different Netflix shows for it.
It's crazy that that's actually the origin story of Ant-Man. That's with Paul Rudd there.
Yeah, I was about to say is that there's a movie with I believe it's Paul Rudd and Tim Robinson coming out pretty soon. That's a A24 movie. Yeah, I'm hyped up.
Yeah, it's about like a guy that gets invited to a group of friends and he feels like he really fits in, and then the group of friends literally is like, "Oh no, we didn't really like you. We never want to hang out with you again." But it's through the frame of like a horror movie. and it's gonna be a killer for sure. Tim Robinson also has an HBO show that's supposed to be releasing the pilot episode sometime this year, I believe, about a guy who gets embarrassed because his chair breaks at work or something like that, and then he plunges into like a giant conspiracy digging into like chair manufacturers to kind of cover up for his blunder.
What'd you say that was?
That one's supposed to be on HBO. It's a new Tim Robinson show. That the pilot's supposed to be. I don't know. I think it's literally going to be called The Chair Company or something.
That is insane.
Yeah, The Chair Company is an upcoming HBO series co-written and starring Tim Robinson. The show is about a man who investigates a conspiracy after an embarrassing workplace incident. It's expected to be released in 2025.
Okay, I'll definitely check into that. I'll go try to catch up on the rest of his shows. I'm going through an anime binge right now, taking a quick break from Star Wars, but I'll try to throw his stuff on so I can actually catch up, because I'd like to see a lot of his variety.
I Think You Should Leave is definitely the best sampler platter of his comedy.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of skits from it, and God, I love that like unhinged, high stress, high anxiety comedy. That just really gets me going, dude. I love it.
Yeah, I think it's some of his skits are like I like crying, laughing at them, and sometimes you do rewatch them and like pick up on a whole different element of what's funny about it, because you get so stuck on one of the stupid parts of it that's just like you almost miss out on other stuff until you rewatch some parts of it.
Yep. Okay, fair enough.
You should check out. There's 2 other YouTubes that I've found, or like that, like are essentially in that same essence. There's Joel Haver, which is getting more. He's getting a lot more popular. He has a bunch of skits where it was, very like abrupt humor, kind of like Tim Robinson. Them Wizards with Guns.
Crazy name.
Yeah, and then also Almost Friday has some of the most unhinged shit I have watched. It's like those 8-minute videos where you think you know what you're going in based on the title, and then it just does a full 360. 180.
He's shredding. He's a fucking Tony Hawk.
Wow.
Speaking of Wizards with Guns, that would be me if I went to Hogwarts.
For real.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
They would have been able to take out Voldemort a lot sooner.
I'm just saying he ain't got no way to protect against his glizzy.
Yeah, I don't care about how many Horcruxes you have or whatever if you're getting shot with a 50 caliber sniper rifle from ye old Harry Pothead himself.
50 caliber sniper is crazy. How did he get that in his book bag? His chest.
Well, I mean, he can use the magic to conceal the gun.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. You got me there.
Put the invisibility cloak over the old blicky.
Like stupid. All right, I got one for you since we're talking about TV shows. Have you guys watched Righteous Gemstones?
I have tried to watch part of it, but I cannot watch. I forgot what the guy who writes it, what his name is. Danny
McBride.
I'm so bad with cringe humor right now. It is so hard to watch that show, and I believe it's like Vice Principals that he also does.
Yeah, he was in that one with Walter Goggins.
Yeah, it is rough to watch both of those sometimes. I'm like, ugh.
All right, so Righteous Gemstones is one of my favorite newer shows, and the new season's going to be coming out soon, which I can't even believe they're going to be making a new season. But it's like Danny McBride, Walter Goggins. There was like one other main actor I've known, and then who's Fred Flintstone from the live action movie?
John Goodman.
John Goodman is the dad. So it's about like a mega church in the family behind like a corrupt megachurch and like the problems that come along with that. It's really, really, really good, dude. Like, I would genuinely put it at like season 1 or season 2 of Stranger Things level of good. Great writing. You know, obviously it's a comedy, so significantly funnier than those. But like that level of like good comedy, good set pieces. Walter Goggins is definitely one of my favorite actors, so it's like he's also like a delight, and as the show goes on, he gets more into like more of an important aspect of the TV show. New season's coming out, so if anybody's into Righteous Gemstones or if they've been wanting to watch it, now's the time. They got short seasons. I think it's like 8 episodes a piece usually. I would really, really highly recommend it. I think Dana McBride is another one of a very, very fantastic writer. And I like how it's like a comedy with a lesson to learn and like the story. I mean, it's just like, you don't find a lot of comedies where the overarching story is that like genuinely good. And I feel like every single season is a completely different story that is just so absolutely perfect and also all encapsulated. So it's like if you watch the first few episodes of the first season to learn the characters, any of the 3 seasons you want to watch is going to be a completely separate story. So it's like you don't even really have to, you know, like it's just that well encapsulated that like you can just watch a season and you get just that main story from it. But I would really highly recommend it to anybody who's been wanting to, and the new season will be out soon.
It looks. I'm reading up on it. Sounds like something I would really enjoy.
You definitely
but
would.
I don't have Max right now. There's like 3 different shows I want to watch, so I'll probably have to get Max.
There's a fun little thing you can do having a desktop called Sailing the High Seas. So
Ryan is advocating for piracy on the podcast.
Come
for
get
my
me,
friends in the
Elon.
police department, can you please elaborate on that?
Steal it.
Could you
Rip it from
Directly
underneath
into the
their
wires for
damn
me.
noses. Fuck it.
Hell yeah.
All media is going to be taken down at some point or become unavailable. So fuck it. Just take it all right now. That is my absolute opinion on it right now. There are so many cases of where like it is next to impossible to get like, I'm going to talk about like Sonic Adventure 2, right? I want to get my girlfriend or, you know, on the GameCube emulator, a copy of Sonic Adventure 2 so that she can play it. Sega took down all of them. I have no way to get her Sonic Adventure 2 because Sonic Adventure 2
It's
does
on Xbox.
Well, she has a Steam Deck. That's all she has. And it doesn't work on the Steam version, but it worked on the emulator. So,
Interesting.
they have taken down all of that shit along with like Nintendo. And then even like Nintendo, if I want to get like a Pokemon game, it's like $300 to get a legit copy. But I found the loophole. It's just reproduction. I'm just going to buy everything reproduction at this point because I feel like that just undermines the people who are selling these at ridiculous prices. But I feel like it also hurts local stores is the part that I feel a little bit bad about, right? Because like in our town,
I wouldn't.
I do. Because like the toy box, right? For us.
They take advantage of us by charging basically what they would charge online.
Yes.
And it's like, well, I'm coming into your place and trying to give you money.
It
and you're
should
literally
be so
charging,
much
like,
lower.
online prices. Like, you're no better than the people who are taking advantage of us online. I don't care. I buy it at the cheapest I can get it, or like you said, sail the seas with it.
Yep. I've just been doing reproduction stuff. I have a few reproduction Pokemon carts on the way since I got my Game Boy working recently. So I have a copy of Leaf Green on the way, which I'm really excited to play.
I think anytime you could pull the wool over rich people's eyes, you should always take that route.
Yeah.
Any single time you can.
Well, Nintendo's never actually going to give us any other, like, usable copy of it, right? Like,
I think that they will, to be honest with you. Like, I think people said that for a long time about the Pikmin games as well.
That's true.
And then they did the ports for the GameCube. I think that it's going to take longer than what a lot of people want it to, but I think that if there's an opportunity for these big companies to make money off nostalgia, that's like their favorite thing because they don't have to make something original. They just have to remake something.
But they've already made remakes. I'm talking about like 1-to-1. So for example, right? Like, so for me, like getting like Pokemon Leaf Green, if I want to get a remake equivalent of that, they say that Pokemon Let's Go is the same thing. I say no, it is not. The game is completely different. Have you played that one?
No, I have not played Let's Go.
It's literally just like a 1-to-1 remake of Red and Blue, right? But it's like there's no actual Pokemon battles with the wild Pokemon. It's literally just Pokemon Go catching, where you just throw a Pokeball.
What's the point?
That's what I mean, is that there is no way for me to play this game at the moment unless I get Leaf Green. But Leaf Green's $300, and I ain't doing that. So...
Stepped on my cat's tail. I'm so sorry.
You're a
How
bad
dare
man.
you.
I didn't know she was under me. Yeah, I think it'll just take time for a lot of this stuff to get figured out.
Yeah, like this Steam Deck is still new. I mean, like,
yeah.
I feel like the Steam Deck came out, everyone said, that's stupid. And then they went and lowered the prices, and they also came out with refurbished ones, and now, God, I love my Steam Deck. Not sponsored. I love my Steam Deck, though. But
There's a lot of stuff that is stupid until the price point is good.
Exactly.
Yep,
I feel like
agree.
that's...
We're talking about...
Like,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, like, a great example of this is, like, when people were scalping the new PlayStations and Xboxes, is, like, I think a new PlayStation for $1,000 is stupid, but I think for, like, $400 or $500, it could be a good investment.
Yeah.
For,
Hunter,
like, somebody's entertainment.
do you remember when I was at your house and I just bought a PlayStation?
Yes.
So context one is that what they did when there was a limited supply of PlayStations is that they basically did like a lottery every like month or so, right? So like you would sign up and then they would basically, just like drop from a bucket and then send you an email and then be like, hey, you have 12 hours to buy a PS5. And then I was sitting there at Hunter's house, checking my work email, and then I check my email, and then I'm like, holy fuck, I can buy a PS5! And I bought a PS5. just ripped the money out of my savings, no plan. Because, like, I
did that when I got mine, too. They had just put it on the shelf at Meijer, and I was like, just take it out. Don't even lock the door. I'm buying it. Just don't even put it in there. And he's like, yeah, I figured when you seen it. Yep. Did not have the money to buy it, but I'm like, I don't care because I know I will not get another one for a year if I don't get it now.
Dude, another story related to that, I just, this is just random and really short, but I just remember there was one time I went to Best Buy. This was when, like, Doom 2016 came out. I think it was, like, a year after. For some reason, it was, like, marked down to, like, $15 at Best Buy, and some dude had hidden it behind... like 2 copies of MLB, like the copy for that year, right? And I had taken it out, and the dude walked by and was like, "Oh, I didn't think anyone would find that." And I'm like, "Yup, sorry," and walked out with it. 15.
Yeah, when I got NCAA, Jess we went and got our screen protectors warranted at Best Buy, and for some reason her price went down, so they had to refund her. They gave her back like $25. And I was like, hey, I need NCAA. And he was like, yeah, we don't have it, but they have one more copy left at the one in Troy. So we got back in the car and drove from Sterling Heights over to Troy. I picked it up, and I only paid like $40 for a game that was out for like a week.
Dude, I tried to do that when the new Dragon Ball came out. I wanted to get a physical copy of it, but holy shit, it was impossible. I couldn't.
They don't make it easy.
No, they don't.
I think, Hunter, I had told you the dilemma of I had done an order through Walmart, right? It had said
Oh yeah,
it had said it will be there tomorrow. I say, okay. It says it's on the way. It never comes. I contact Walmart support. I am on I am on the support line for like 10 or 20 minutes, and they basically tell me that their driver has been MIA for like 6 or 7 hours with my order. So my bet is that the dude saw, oh man, Dragon Ball, and then quit and just took my game and left.
Ethan when he got a PS5. He was able to get one off of Walmart.com, and then the guy stole it right off the truck. The driver just took it home, and Walmart was like, "Yeah, the driver stole it. So we're just gonna give you your money back."
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking happened. It has to have been
That's
like
awesome.
they just gave me like my money back and like Walmart credit that like I forgot about, but still, it is.
Yeah, that
It
happens
is so
sometimes.
hard. Physical media really is dying. It's so hard to like get a physical game. Like I wanted like to get I think I told you I was playing like Metaphor ReFantasia, which is like by the people who made Persona. It's like their first original IP in like 10 or 20 years, which is pretty nuts for them. So, I wanted to get a physical copy for that. Looked all over, not available. If I wanted to get physical, it was scalped.
That's the only reason I didn't get Avowed is because the physical copy just came with a card, and I was like, "You can fucking die. I'm not doing that." But all right, so there was something else that we needed to cover today. Me and Hunter were talking about. So, shout out to everybody who's been leaving us comments and asking our opinions on stuff, and just overall, talking to us. We really do appreciate that. And me and Hunter have been a little laxy-daisy and not responding as quickly as we would like on the podcast. Hunter's been on top of it on YouTube, like as an actual comment. But we wanted to take this time at the end of the podcast to respond to some of the stuff that you guys were saying, because we do genuinely appreciate all of the feedback we've been getting about the topics we've been talking about. We love hearing your guys' opinions, so thank you for that. So there was one quick one I wanted to hit before we start diving into our opinion-based ones. So one of the first ones I just wanted to quickly touch on real quick was T. Sunny was talking to us about Kingdom Come Deliverance. He was telling us that he has over 400 hours into it. I'm not good at it. So I tried taking your advice, and it's not really working out for me that much. I just kind of trap people into corners and try to beat their ass the best I can. But yeah, he was telling Hunter to play the first one before he plays the second one. You'll really miss out if you don't. My big thing is I just wanted to let you know, T. Sunny, I'm still playing it. I love it. I'm in endgame now. I'm at the point where if you do the next mission, it kind of will void you out of some others. So I'm kind of just cleaning up house before I start that. So that was the main one I wanted to just quickly touch on there. But now we got some that we can answer some opinions on.
I'm so hyped up to pick Kingdom Come. Like,
So good, dude.
I was texting you this morning about it. Like, I definitely think that I'm going to get into it, but I don't think I have the vibe for it right now. I definitely think that it feels like a slower game, and that's not really what I want to play right now. I definitely want some like more quicker satisfaction out of the game, you know what I mean? But I think the Kingdom Come Deliverance when it came out was a very unique thing, and it definitely was on my radar. And it's so cool to see that like the sequel came out and they've blown up this much, because it was literally just a company like that came from nothing, literally a Kickstarter campaign. So,
well, that's a pretty good segue into our next comment then. Thank you for bringing that up, brother. So I guess we should have probably asked people if we could say their name, so I'll just go by first name on this one. So we got a comment from Farah. She said that I totally can relate to your guys' concerns about final bosses when we were talking about Elden Ring. But she asked us, do you prefer shorter games or longer games? Give us a little quick overview of what you guys both think about that.
I can start with this one, and I will say I don't actually have a preference. And I say that in some games can be very short and complete. Like you play through a short couple-hour
Absolutely.
campaign, and it feels like you got everything the game wanted to give you. Whereas other games can kind of like keep giving you something to keep you locked into the game.
Right.
I hate, most of all, a very long game that feels like it does not need to be that long.
Red Dead.
Where it's just like keeping you in the game basically because they want to say the game was super long. So for me, it's just about how you fill the time that the game takes. I've played games that took me 80 hours to complete and games that took me 6 hours to complete and gotten pretty equal amounts of joy in regards to like how well I believe they did with selling me on the story. So I would say it doesn't really matter as long as they fill it with whatever they're looking to give the consumer.
Japanese role-playing games are the ones that I feel like it's a lot of fluff for absolutely no reason. Every time I try to play one, it's a 100-hour game, and I'm like, you could have done this.
I'm about to bash you in the skull with a rock. Holy shit, this is just what I was about to talk about.
Can't do it, dude. It's too much. They put too much in there for absolutely no reason.
You are
Tales of Vesperia is
that
probably
one's
my
true.
big one. I love the game. I love the story. I love the world. Too much wandering around in between missions, and it's just like this. There's no need for any of this. I am agreeing with you in two instances. I prefer long games that can be done shorter. You know, like Cyberpunk, you could probably knock out in about 15 hours. But if you want to put 60, 70 hours in, you can. Skyrim's the same way. You could probably knock it out in 20, but if you want to do 200 hours, you can. I like the versatility of both. Like, sometimes you just want to knock a game out real quick, and that's perfectly fine. Like, if I'm playing a Halo campaign, you know, it's only going to be 10, 12 hours. But with open world games, I definitely love long games that if you do not want to play them the long way, you can knock it out. Like Elden Ring. You could probably knock that out in like 5-6 hours if you're talented enough to go into the hard parts without grinding. You know what I mean, guys?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get you.
Do you have an opinion on this one before we move on, Ryan?
I was about the same. This is my territory. This is my dojo of games recently. It has been long-term games. It's I'm pulling up something because I wanted to talk about a lot of these like long-haul games, especially when it comes down to like JRPGs. Because like even with like JRPGs, like you look at like Dragon Quest, right? Like a lot of people are not going to take it up because it doesn't look right. But Dragon Quest is like 100 hours of just random fluff. So like it's exactly what you're talking about. But like I think that like if you don't look at what the destination is, you know what I mean? Like the end game, and just enjoy the silly little stories that it throws at you and all and all that it gives, I think it's great. Like I think that Persona 4 is like 120 hours. It's I definitely know what you mean by fluff, right? But I definitely don't think that the whole game has fluff. But I definitely think that JRPGs suffer from it. Man, I'm just going back on all the shit that I just said. That's crazy.
They suffer from it really bad. Like
they suffer from
you have nothing to do, but you're just walking for 20 minutes. You know what I mean? Like there should be stuff to do in between.
That's why I think that Persona as a linear RPG, right, is perfect. I fucking hate open world RPG, like JRPGs. I think it's shit. It just does not really work that well for me. It's not my favorite. I think that JRPGs and literally just kind of like a straight line except for dungeons is great. But like Persona's kind of weird because like Persona kind of works like you kind of just have like a toolbox of things that you can do on off days, and then you get majority of like, you know, your relaxation in the story from there, and then you go into a dungeon the next day and then stress. But
okay.
Like, I'm trying to think of like long-term games that like I've played.
Yeah, but we definitely do get the main thing of what you're talking about. We'll definitely make more time for it too. But let's try to hammer through a few more of these comments.
No.
Here's a good one that's maybe even aimed specifically at Ryan above either of us. Ryan, what is your favorite Final Fantasy
9
game? And is it worth playing?
Yeah.
Is it worth playing?
I think it's worth playing still. I think that if you want to give anybody a Final Fantasy game to play, I tell them 10, right? I think that 10 is the most modern looking. I think 10 is the most approachable. I think that people will grasp onto the story very well. It's just a very well put story. Like they're all good. a fun game. The characters are fun. The story is fun. I think that there's a lot of things that you can do outside of just, chugging through the story, but the story makes you want to chug through it. I think that what I wanted to get to in terms of long games is that I'm okay with a long game if it doesn't feel like it's long. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm invested enough in the game, you know what I mean? Like, I don't care how many hours I'm sinking into it. I just want to play it. Ghost of Tsushima for me was like, it was like 25 hours, and I didn't even realize that the game was over until it was over, and then I was like, fuck. All right, time to go 100% it.
Yeah, that was a good one. I was a big fan of it too. Julian was playing it, and I used to watch him play it.
And shit's so good, but like, Red Dead 2 doesn't feel like it's worth my time 90%. Like, no, it's just so, it's so slow, and I tried to pick it back up, and I remember loving it, but I just cannot.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that one at all.
So
there was another one on that same she was talking about. Oh yeah. So that, I think it was Farrah was that one that asked about the Final Fantasy game. She was also talking about voice actors. Did you see that, Hunter?
Yeah, I did.
So I 100% am feeling like what she was talking about. Like, voice acting absolutely makes or breaks a game. Like, she brought up, I guess Megan Fox was in Mortal Kombat 11, and a lot of people didn't like that she kind of ruined the voice.
Yeah, it sucked.
She wasn't doing too good in it. I also think that it can be, like, I love the voice actors from, like, Skyrim, but it definitely is very jarring when there's, like, 8 guys and they're all voice acted by the same person and they're all in the same room talking to you. It's like, that can really take you out of it. Like, voice acting is super important. It can definitely mess with the
immersion.
What's that?
It can definitely mess with your immersion, like your belief that you're, like, when you suspend your disbelief that you're playing the game, that you're, like, in the game, kind of. I feel like it can really drag you into the reality that you're playing a video game.
I agree.
Yes.
And it's like something you're playing and not something you're experiencing. And like this, I can kind of circle back even to what we were talking about earlier with the movies, like people won't watch ones that aren't translated, but I think you actually lose out in that way when you're watching something and it's not the original actors, and because even the best dubs for like anime, I think you lose out on not hearing what the original voice actors are doing with the character before it's translated.
I agree. If you watch something in sub and you get used to, like, because like I'll bring up one of the next comments and we'll close out on that one in a little bit. But like, since I'm so into like audiobooks because of like my work and stuff like that, when I'm watching anime, and since I've been watching it for so many years and a lot of it's in Japanese, the voice that I'm hearing, even if it's in Japanese, I'm hearing it in the words that I'm reading. So like if I'm watching One Piece and I'm reading a line from Luffy, even if his voice isn't 100% Japanese, when I'm reading it, I'm hearing his voice sound like that. So it's like when I switch to English, and it's like, because I got a movie that came out a few years ago and it was in all English, and I was just like, this is not the fucking characters I know.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah, it's super weird to me. But here's a good thing, since we're talking about voice actors. It's another one, and Hunter, I'll throw this one to you. Farrah also asked us, what do you think is the most important and least important thing in a game?
For me, least important, graphics.
Same.
I think it does not matter if it's a completely like an 8-bit pixel game or if it's like the most beautiful, visually striking game you've ever seen. I don't think the graphics really matter to me, especially if it makes sense for the type of game it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like right. I just have never really had that big of a buy-in. Like, yeah, it's nice when stuff doesn't look horrible.
Right.
But at the same time, I just don't really have that much of a buy-in for graphics. For most important to me, I think it's that the game got to do what it wanted to do, like they set out to do something specific and they got to do that. They made you feel a certain type of way, like they really made you feel like you were an adventurer in this RPG, or they really made you feel like you were a soldier in some war, that they kind of like gave you what they wanted to give out of the experience instead of kind of like what we've talked about previously, where the games kind of get watered down to appeal to everybody.
Right.
So
I think what's most important is that the game delivers on what they want you to get out of it.
I think that as much as I dunk on Red Dead, right? I think that is a perfect example of that. Their vision was to make a cowboy epic, and damn, they did it. They did it fantastically. If you shout out Jimmy. I've heard Jimmy talk about Red Dead sometimes, and I've literally never heard him talk about the story. He was just like, yeah, I went fishing, and then I hunted a bear, and then I hunted a lion or whatever the hell he does. But I hear him talk about the side activities in Red Dead and the stuff going on. It was even in, like, I had booted up the game for like an hour yesterday, and I forgot how alive the game feels. Just, like, going around, like, there's wildlife, like the camp, like, I watched Bill steal money out of the camp funds. I watched the girls sing around the table. I watched the one guy play Five Finger Fillet with himself. I watched Jose and who's the main guy?
Arthur Morgan.
No, the other guy who's the leader.
Dutch.
I saw it was Jose and Dutch sitting on a. It was Jose and Dutch sitting on a mountain, and they were discussing about how do they want to die, and it was legitimately like a 5 or 6 minute dialogue, and I just kind of just walked up to them and just listened to it. I probably would have never heard it if I didn't do that. That's what I mean by like a game feels alive. Yeah. Yeah, Cyberpunk. Yeah, Cyberpunk
you're just
does
like
that.
walking around, people have like entire conversations on their phone. The thing is like I agree with that, is like doing what they want to do, like Kingdom Come, I'll bring it back to that. I was in the monastery doing some illegal shit in like a holy place, and a lot of the named characters in the monastery are the actual people that were there in 1405. Like, there was surviving documents of the people who served in the monastery, and they actually put the names on the characters in the game. Like, bringing you, like, what they want to do is create like this historical game, and I feel like they really get it by those little details. And that's the same thing too. Like, I think graphics, as like time progresses, like if it's supposed to be like this open world, beautiful game, and it's not, like, that's gonna piss me off. But it doesn't need to be insanely amazing looking. But I think the characters I'm interacting with in the story that I'm playing is important to me, because if you don't have an actual attachment, like Outer Worlds, looked good, played good. I didn't give a fuck about the story, and I didn't care about a single one of the characters. Like, I never do evil stuff in games because it makes me feel icky, and that's just how I am. But, like, in that game, I was evil as hell. I was like, I don't care about any of these people. I don't care about any of the settings or nothing that happens to any of it, like, anything at all.
There's another...
And it was just so hollow that I just didn't care. And when something's hollow, I don't want to invest the time into it.
So, there's a Obsidian game that you should play called Tyranny. And the whole gimmick is that you are evil. You are supposed to be evil. That is, you know what I mean? Like, That is it. You got to be evil. And so I think that I'm going to keep this short, but like one of like the most important things like to me is dialogue. I genuinely have come, I've come to figure that one out after playing Avowed and remembering why I love Obsidian, which is that it's not every piece of dialogue is perfect in that game, but there are some times where I have had to stop and think about the dialogue options that they are giving me. I think that the way that they word things is beautiful. I think it is a very deep game. If you guys ever get the chance, play another game called like Disco Elysium. It has the same kind of vibes.
Heard of that one.
Yes, Disco Elysium, you would love.
Might have to cut that out.
My piece of that is I do really enjoy good dialogue in games and good voice actors, but it's not really a make it or break it thing to me, in the sense that I've played a lot of games that have almost no dialogue, and I still really enjoy them because they deliver on what the game is trying to do. Like Risk of Rain 2 is a great example of a game I think is a masterpiece. I love playing it. I enjoy it a lot, but there's not really much dialogue in the game. There's still a story to it. There's a lot of lore you can pick up and read and stuff like that, and character or log books and stuff, but there's not really much of any dialogue.
Yeah, but that's like the point of that one, though. Like, if you're playing a game where there's dialogue every 5 seconds and it's not important, that will make or break a game.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I'm saying, like, if in regards to games in general, I don't think
I get what you mean then.
having or not having dialogue makes it or breaks it for me.
That's fair.
But in a game that has a lot of dialogue, if it's not good, then yeah, that's definitely can ruin the game pretty easily. Or some very unenthusiastic voice acting.
I mean, you know, like,
definitely.
look at like Legend of Zelda, like Ocarina of Time. There's no voice acting. There's little dialogue. It's just a game. It's just an adventure game. That's it.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. It's actually a really good game. I was playing it on her Switch.
It's so good.
All right, last one to take us out, boys, because we're running long. So going back to one that T. Sonny posted, he was talking about how when Hunter was cooking me that I like to zone out and listen to books while I'm driving a semi-truck. He was talking about how it's so much easier to visualize and be transported to another world when you're doing something when you're doing something stationary, quotes, and monotonous. So I agree and I disagree. Like, if I'm just sitting in a chair, it's way harder for me to listen to audiobooks or podcasts. I need to be doing something for me to really, like, if I'm cutting the grass, if I'm driving a truck, if I'm driving a forklift, if I'm walking in the mall, like, I need to be able to turn off, like, you know, have my brain working at a minimum, but realistically turn off, like, my frontal lobe to really visualize what I'm listening to. I get what he's saying is, like, monotonous, because he said that he used to, like, listen to books when he would drive to go see his wife at college, but I definitely am not one that can just sit in a chair and listen to audiobooks, podcasts, stuff like that. I can with music and whatnot, but, like, for me to fully be invested into something that I'm listening to, I definitely need to be doing something, at least with my hands, something. I don't know what it is, but something.
Yeah, I feel that. I'm way too ADHD to do something stationary without some other sort of stimulus.
Same.
Yeah, and it's also like 2 birds, 1 stone. You get to listen to something you really want to listen to, and then you can get your chores done. Like, if I'm cleaning the house or folding laundry, I can absolutely do that. Well, not folding laundry as much, because I feel like I'll fuck it up. I think we talked about that last time, actually. But, like, if I'm cutting the grass or doing landscaping, I definitely can and whatnot. But, like, I genuinely don't think I could just sit in here, like if we were recording a podcast, just sit in my game room and stare at the wall and, like, listen to my book. And it's the same as I wouldn't be able to really play video games while I listen to it, because it's like I feel like you have to pay attention to one or the other. Do you guys know what I mean?
I
Yeah,
literally was about to say that I'm playing like the new Monster Hunter Wilds and listening to the Dune audiobook, because there's so much fucking exposition that I do not care about, so I just listen to Dune, and then I'm like, oh my god, I can fight a monster!
Exposition in Dune you don't care about?
Monster Hunter I do not care about.
Okay, if you're saying you didn't care about the...
Why would I be listening to the audiobook if I didn't care about it?
That's what I was wondering. I was about to just be like, okay, we're scrapping this whole episode, we're gonna take it
We're
from
gonna
the top.
kill Ryan. Yep.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Feel free to follow us on YouTube, Blue Sky, Instagram, and sadly now Twitter. You know, me and Hunter came to an economic decision. It does make sense. Really good outreach. Feel free to follow us on any of those. Feel free to email us. Leave more comments for sure. We'll try to more regularly get to them on tape while we continue to answer them on whatever app you guys send them to us on. We appreciate all the input, and I appreciate you guys for spending some time with me and talking, boys. I will see everybody later.
Peace out.